When I say the word meditation, what immediately pops into your mind?
Mountains.
Mountains, yoga, doing this. What else did you guys say? When you think of meditation, what comes to your mind? Chanting. So, kind of stuff, or pizza. Is that what you're thinking? No. But not pizza. Anything else? Not thinking. Let's try this for a second. Let's try this little experiment. This is fun. Put your pens down. Sit in your chair. Seat back in your chair. And I want you to do this little experiment for a second. Okay? So, whether you think you can or you don't think you can, I want you to do this. What I would like you to do, for an amount of time, I'll let you know how long. I'm not going to tell you in advance, but I want you to make it so you have no thought happening. So I want you to stop all your thinking. Okay, intentionally make it so that no thoughts go across the screen of your mind. Got it? Okay, so close your eyes and make... Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Good one. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. No thoughts whatsoever. Just make there be no thoughts, no thinking. No thoughts whatsoever. Okay, that's long enough. Okay, what did you notice? Did anyone get to no thinking? To no thought? For a half a second? You got to nothing? So what did that feel like? Like every day?
I meditate every day.
So, but what's happening when nothing's happening?
I just chill. I focus on my breathing.
But there's a thought about your breathing.
That's the only thing I think about is like the inhale.
Okay, but you said you're thinking about.
I guess that's it then.
So you're still focusing, there's still a thought.
Yeah.
It was hard for me not to think of anything, because there'd be times where I'm like, okay, I'm not supposed to be thinking about anything. But
Which is a thought.
Not thinking about anything.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, I'm not going to think about anything. And then I'll sit there, I'm like, it's black. Oh, crap, I just thought.
Which is a thought. Yeah. Exactly.
It's so dumb.
And the whole idea is, and I've 22 years of meditation, and I have yet to have the slightest idea how to make there be no thought. Nor is that an intention that we have when we meditate, to have no thought. Okay? So one of the first things I want you to get in your mind is that when we speak about meditation, it's probably it's not what you think it is. And it's not thinking. That's too hard. And frankly, I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if it's humanly possible. I have yet to find anyone who can say, yes, I can make my... Because this instant you go blank, yes, some thoughts will pop in there. Some programmed thoughts or an intention. Okay, focus on my breath, which is still a thought.
An image was, I was seeing like swirling, like smoke swirled
I wasn't thinking about anything, but my mind was still.
But an image is still a thought about something. Let me give you some background. My experience when I first learned meditation, I was 25, I think, and I'd been working in this library for a couple years, and there was one part of this library that had all these books on meditation. And during that time, I was really interested in all kinds of things to do with my health. And I had never really heard about meditation. I didn't know anything about it. I'd heard, people say, yeah, you should ponder and meditate on it. And I always wondered, what do you mean by that? So I looked for these books. I started reading through these books. And all of them spoke about the benefits, or they were more philosophy, but they all spoke about the benefits. And I'll tell you some of these studies that they did on people who meditated. Here's one example we filled the book with a lot of good studies, but there was one study that was really fascinating to me that kind of went like this. They had people who were hooked up to an electroencephalograph, measures brainwave activity, right? And essentially, we have, during our days and nights, we go through, or we have pretty much 4 different levels of brainwave activity. Kind of looks like this. We have beta. In other words, when you're hooked up to the electroencephalograph, which you can't fake, you can't like, oh, I'm going to trick this. It just measures what's going on with your brainwaves. We have beta, which is like most of us are now, quite alert and awake. And when we are at that state, then the beta brainwave activity, when you look at the graph, is quite, the rhythm's going quite a lot. Okay? Higher levels of beta brainwave activity indicates higher levels of stress. The next level down is called alpha. And this kind of brainwave activity is very common in times when we are just falling asleep, during our relaxation exercises, when you're visualizing, early hypnosis. So this is kind of when we're in this stage, they say our mind works the best for learning, for example. And then we have 2 lower levels of brainwave activity, theta and delta. And these are primarily the brainwaves that are strongest when we're sleeping. If you haven't been drinking the night before, then your mind will be in these 2 levels primarily. You're not conscious in these levels, and this is the place where you have the most recovery. You notice that you go to sleep and you might have a sore throat. You wake up in the morning, it's gone. You go to sleep and you have a cut or something on your hand, and after a couple of nights sleep, you notice it's better. It's turned to scar or whatever. So this is our most restorative. When these are the most prominent, we get our most deep and restorative rest. Do you have a question, Mike?
What about REM sleep?
Yeah, that happens during these 2. When we're in REM sleep, we're usually strongest in these 2 brainwave activities.
That was beta.
No.
When you're in REM sleep, and that's why it was ironic, is because you're in REM sleep, but you have beta waves going on instead of theta.
Not nearly. There may be. You always have all 4 of these going to some extent, but when you're in REM sleep, it's way more of the theta and delta. So anyway, what they did, if you took a typical night for us, and you went like 1, 2, 3 hours, this is hours of sleep, and we were so lucky to get 8 hours, let's say, it usually takes about 2 hours for you to get into this level of theta, and delta. And then during the night, you kind of, those are the strongest, throughout the evening, or throughout the night of sleeping, those are your strongest brain, those are the ones that are most predominant, okay? And that's when you're getting your most restorative rest, during this period of the night, when you're getting good sleep, okay? Now, here's what's really fascinating, what really got me interested as much as anything else. They said that when a person, they did this study, and they found that when people meditate, the way I'm going to show you today, people go from here to the delta level in a matter of 5 minutes, people who meditated regularly. But at the same time, they were wide awake. They had never seen this before until they did this with meditators, because when you meditate, you're still conscious. But the brainwave activity, delta and theta brainwave, is cranking right away, which means you can get really restorative rest, tremendously restorative rest in a very little amount of time by meditating the way I'm going to show you. Okay, does that make sense? They gave this state a name. It was so new to them. They'd never heard of this before. But they called it a hypometabolic state. Okay, hypo meaning, what's the prefix hypo? What? This is like under or low. Yeah, hyper is the other one, yeah. Hypo means very low metabolic rate. So, for example, and I'm not saying this to brag, this is my experience with this. There have been times when I'm meditating where I'll check my pulse. You know, I used to meditate with those polar, you know, the things that people who work out. I have a few of those at home. And I would wear one while I meditated. And it checks your heart rate while you work out. Well, I did the same thing when I meditated. My heart rate was 30 beats a minute. You know, and it's normally in the 50s. If you had a heart rate of 30 beats a minute doing normal activity, would somebody be concerned? Oh yeah, they'd be. This was the one thing I also had when I was in my 20s. I was diagnosed with high blood pressure. I was exercising like crazy. I was doing all the right things, but I had high blood pressure. It's in our family. And the doctor said to me, well, you're going to have to be on medication for the rest of your life. High blood pressure medication. That's the last thing I want, is to be on medication. And he said, well, there's nothing you can do. You're stuck with it. You got bad genes. You chose the wrong parents. So I said, there must be something I can do. And it was about that time when I learned, it was a little while beyond this time when I learned about meditation, which I'll tell you about. And ever since then, no high blood pressure. It's gone. I've been in the normal range ever since. There have been times when I meditate the way I'm going to show you today, where my breathing rate, you know, at the beginning of the semester we tested our breathing, we counted how many breaths we take per minute, and most people breathe between 6 and 12 breaths per minute. Some people more, some people not too much less than 6 breaths a minute. There have been times when I'm meditating where it's 1 breath a minute. I'm not trying to make that happen, that's just how it happens. You really, really slow down things. They did this really interesting study where they took people who had been meditating for 5 years. They took people, everyone in this study, they had a control group, an experimental group, and everyone in this study was over the age of 60. So old dudes, right? Everyone was over age 60, and then they tested all of them. They had the control group who had never meditated, and then the experimental group, every one of them in this experimental group had meditated daily for 5 years at least. And then they tested them for biological aging. Now, somebody tell me, what's the difference between we have biological aging and we have physiological aging? What's the difference? What's the difference between, what's physiological aging, first of all?
Outside.
What?
Face, stuff like that. What are you talking about, cells?
No, well, no, the right word I should have said is chronological aging. That's what I really mean. So there's biological or physiological aging. I'm sorry, I messed that up. Physiological aging and chronological aging. So what is chronological aging?
Where you should be at that point?
Yeah, I've been on this planet as the Earth has gone around the Sun 50 years. We celebrate our birthdays, everything chronologically we have our ages, right? How does biological aging differ from that? There's actually markers that they measure that show, you know, biological or physiological aging. Things like visual acuity, how fast their fingernails grow, how fast their hair grows, the amount of coloring or whatever in their hair. All these kind of measures. Well, what they did with these two groups, they measured them so they were all over age 60. This group never meditated. This group, 5 years or more of meditating every day. And they found that this group had biological ages 12 years younger on the average than this group. 12 years. Now, why does that make sense when we talk about, earlier in the semester, we talked about the stress response and how it seems to age people more quickly, right? You've seen people who've gone through terrible experiences, suddenly they look older. Well, meditation, yes, it seems to slow things down a lot. It seems to slow down the aging process a lot. And I'm thinking, I'm all over that because I want to be 70 and beating the tar out of somebody in racquetball. I want to be 100 and still be, you know, moving around instead of, will somebody take care of me, please? You know, and so that was my main motive, or one of my motivations for learning this. So, I saw all that research in the books. The problem was none of the books told how. They were like, oh, this is great. You should learn how to meditate because it's so wonderful. And they didn't tell us how. They didn't describe it. They said, oh, you got to learn from somebody. This was in the early 80s. There wasn't a lot of information about meditation back then. You couldn't just look it up on Google. There wasn't a Google. So, anyway, in about November of that year, I remember because it was cold, I went to there was a newspaper article that said, this guy's going to come through, he's coming through town, or he's coming to town, and he's going to teach this type of meditation called Transcendental Meditation, or TM for short. He's going to teach about Transcendental Meditation. Great, somebody's going to teach me how. So I went to this presentation, and this wonderfully nice guy, he was a great guy, he came to this building there nearby where I lived, and he said essentially the same thing that the books were saying. Crap. But if you want to learn this, I'll teach you. And back then, it only cost $500. Now, I was a really poor college student. I mean, not just struggling. I was working at a library, for heaven's sakes. And our family, we weren't on the top of the scale. $500 was a lot to me. So I thought, man, I really want to learn this, though. So somehow, I don't remember, credit cards or whatever, I came up with $500. I said, if it's that beneficial, and he had long lists of things, of reasons why TM was so good for you. So I signed up, and the next week, or soon thereafter, I came to my one-on-one instruction. with this guy. And I was naive. I didn't know what I was doing. I just showed up. And I remember this so clearly because it was such a... Whoa. I went into this room and immediately the lights were dim and there were rose petals all over the floor and there was incense going and there was some music like what we showed you, was it last week where he did the music that was like from India, and there were pictures of guys all over the walls that I'd never, big enormous pictures, and I thought, what have I done? Oh geez, because I'm very, very happy with my own philosophy, my own beliefs. I was not about to convert to anything. I didn't want any of that. And when I walked in this room, I went, oh, this is not what I'd had no exposure to anything like this before. We were very sheltered. But I thought, I paid the $500. I didn't know a single other person who meditated. Or at least anyone who would admit it. And so we sat down next to the guy who's a very, very kind person. And I was sitting in a chair, he was in the couch next to me, and he said, okay, just go along with me. I'm going to start saying some things and then I'll tell you what to do next. And then he started into this prayer, I guess. I didn't understand. It was all in Sanskrit or some language. I didn't understand a word he was saying. He just kept going on and on and on. And they got to this end and he started repeating a word. He started repeating a word that I didn't understand what the word was. And then after a while, he said, okay, you start saying this word too, out loud. And so I did. It sounded kind of like, the word sounded something like serene, but it wasn't. It was spelled differently. It started with an SH. And so I started repeating it. Okay, whatever, I don't understand this, but I'll try it. So I kept repeating it, kind of at a pace that he was telling me. And he says, okay, now close your eyes and just repeat it more silently. And he said, after a while of doing that, then he said, now repeat it subvocally. Now, and after doing that for a while, then he said, okay, just let this word happen kind of at the least level you can. You know, where it's just serene, where it's not vocal at all or subvocal, it's just happening in your mind. And I thought, this doesn't make any sense, but okay. So, and he said, I'll let you know when we're done. And so I did that, and I didn't know any better, I didn't know any differently, so I just did that. And after about 15 minutes, he said, okay, just kind of slowly stop. And I did, and I didn't know about, you know, relaxation exercises too much or anything, how to end, so I just kind of, okay, I'm good. I'm not kidding in the least. It felt like somebody had opened my brain and poured in pure energy. It was the most remarkable feeling I'd ever had to that time of, it was like my whole brain had been cleaned, like someone had gone in there and just taken a scrub brush, and my thinking was clearer than I can ever remember it being, and I had so much energy, and I felt like I had slept for 3 days. And I went, holy cow, I don't understand this in the least, but this is remarkable. And so he said, yeah, I know, it's cool, isn't it? And I said, this is really good. He says, he said, do this every day for about 15 minutes to a half hour. And I did. I didn't know any better, but I loved that feeling that I had never had quite like that before. And so I did it every day. Same way. And every day I had that same, man, this feels good feeling. And I have done it ever since then, almost every day. I miss a day or two here and there for 22 years. And it continues to be one of those absolute best things that I have ever done for myself for well-being, hands down. Now, after a while of doing this, I thought, man, I'd sure like to teach other people. And that, as a matter of fact, it was when I was in school. I thought it'd be fun to be part of a class where we were doing stress management kinds of stuff, and we included this in there. And it's really expensive. Interestingly, this costs about $2,500 now. What you're going to learn today is you would pay $2,500 for that.
For one session?
For learning how. The process of learning it and then there's follow-up sessions. The guy gave me this word at the end of this long prayer. He gave me this word and he called it a mantra. You've heard of the term mantra. You've heard of that word before. It simply means a repeated word. He gave me this word and he said, this is your special private word, and you're never to tell anybody that this is your word, or else it will lose its powers. Oh my gosh, what a racket. Well, some guys at the Harvard Mind-Body Clinic came along, Herbert Benson and a few others. They were really interested in it. These were people who were really involved in the wellness movement and mind-body wellness and all that kind of stuff. And they said, can we do the same thing? Can we get these same results without all the mysticism, without all the, the incense and the Hindu philosophy and all that kind of stuff? And so they just took the essential parts of it. The repeating the word, close your eyes, quiet environment, and can we get the same results? And sure enough, their research said they were using it at the Harvard Mind-Body Clinic, helping people with cancer. And I found that as I was, because I didn't ever tell anyone I meditated. It's just one of those, you don't tell your buddies that you're meditating. Definitely don't tell them you're doing yoga. You're off the team. You're not coming back. Back then, because it was so strange. It was just something nobody did. But I thought, can we do this? I mean, I read what Benson and those guys were doing, and I thought, I wonder if I can do that too, because I know how to do it. I wonder if I could teach other people. And so ever since then, I started doing that 15 years ago when I started teaching a stress management class. I've taught the essence of this to people, and every single time we get the same results. We get people who are more relaxed than they've ever been. We get people who, I told you at the beginning of the semester, people whose headaches for 20 years, one lady had chronic headache every single day. As soon as she meditated, no more headache, and every time she meditates, no more headache, kind of thing. Their chapter gives a lot of good information about some more background to do with meditation and why it's so great. We devoted an entire chapter to this. Not the relaxation exercises, because I think those are different than this. In the other class, we expand on it and we explore some really interesting things that you can do in meditation. But for this class, I want to share with you how to do this. It really is one of the coolest things that you'll ever do. At least, I know you don't believe that right now because, you haven't experienced it, but you will find out. It says, if you have a brain, you can meditate. People say, oh, I can't possibly meditate. I was talking to a lady last night. I'm going to be teaching a group of people down in West Haven next week. They all have high blood pressure, and I'm going to teach them about this very thing that you're learning about. And she said, oh man, I would really love it if I could quiet my brain. And that's pretty much everybody. Except for maybe you probably have a quieter brain because you've practiced these kind of things. But for the most of us, our brains are like going all over the place, right? It's okay. It's really okay, and you don't think to yourself, I can't do this because I can't stop my... You don't have to. Okay? So, when we do this, let's see, I want to make sure I'm online with what you're doing. So, when we do this, we meditate sitting. We don't do it lying down. We don't want to associate sleeping with meditation. So we do it sitting up in a chair. And it doesn't matter if it's a nice comfy chair or it's a chair like these, it still works, okay? And how we do this, we always start out, we decide on a mantra for ourselves. We decide on a word that we want to repeat. And I listed a few there, you know, one, peace, still, serene, happy, quiet, ocean. It doesn't make any difference what that word is. Okay, you got that? It doesn't make a bit of difference what the word is. You can use pizza, you can use spaghetti, you can use rotary engine. It doesn't make a difference. You just decide on a word, okay? And mid-meditation, if you decide you want to do another one, you do that too, okay? And so, when we decide on the word, so let's say that I'm meditating and the word that I decide to do, and you don't make a big deal out of it either. You just kind of, okay, today I think I'd like to do serene. That sounds like a fun word to do. And it looks like this. So, you close your eyes, and after a little while of just kind of becoming mindful, like you said, Hannah, you kind of tune into here and now. And then it looks like this. Only you wouldn't do this out loud. You would do this sub-vocally. And you just put your hands wherever they happen to go. If you really, really want to do this stuff with your fingers, go ahead. So you close your eyes and you go like this. Serene. Serene. I don't like serene. One. 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 At about that speed. And that's all you do. Okay. Now I can hear your voice in your head going, there must be more to it than that. No, there's not more to it than that. That's all you do. Now, pay attention to this. Pay attention, because you'll want to do this right, and I don't want you to care about doing it right. I want you to do it accurately. Okay? So, here's what'll happen. 2 or 3 things will happen as you're meditating. So, the first thing that will happen, I guarantee it will happen, you'll be meditating, you'll be going 1, 1, 1. Oh man, there's a game tonight. I can't wait to go to this game tonight. I wonder if Utah State will bring off all their fans, because that's really fun to watch their fans. And that means I got to go shopping because I need to. And then my daughter has a practice that we've got to get to because it's a team meeting. And then as that happens, write this down. You have one single intention whenever you meditate. Only one. It is not to focus on your breathing. It is not to focus on your thoughts. You have one single intention. That is to return to the word when it occurs to do so. When it occurs to you. Return to the word when it occurs to you. That's probably on that paper. But I want you to write it down so it's in your mind. That's the only intention. So, it looks like this. Your mind is going all over the place, thinking about all the things, and it will. And you don't, when that happens, go, crap, I can't do this meditation stuff. It's not working. You don't do that. You just go, oh yeah, 1, 1, 1. And then your mind will fly all over the place. There have been times, really, there have been times when I've been meditating, and I'll say the word maybe 2 or 3 times, and for 20 minutes my mind's all over the place. When I'm done, when I finish, I feel tremendous. The intention is what drives the meditation. You intend to, oh yeah, 1. You don't intend to get mad at yourself. You just, oh yeah, 1. Second thing that will happen, and for some of you in here, this will definitely happen, is you will go 1, 1, 1, zonk. And you'll just crash. When that happens, you let it. You'll have some of the deepest rest you've ever had as you, because you're creating this experience here. You'll have some of the deepest rest that you've ever had when you allow yourself. You don't say, okay, intending to sleep is a different thing than intending to return to the Word and then falling asleep. Does that make sense to you guys? Do you get that? You don't go, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and fall asleep. You go 1, 1, and if you naturally... See, here's the thing that I know to be true about meditation is whatever is supposed to happen during meditation is what will happen. You do a lot of cleansing of your mind. You do a lot of great things for your body. I have this idea that when the mind and body are relaxed, the body will heal itself of most problems. The mind will heal itself. The emotions will heal themselves of most problems. But the reason why we don't ever get to there is because we're so busy up at that beta level. When we go into meditation, it's amazing how many things get better. I'm saying that from watching hundreds of other people as well as my own experience.
So then, could this help us understand our subjects better in school?
I would absolutely do this before every test I ever take. Unquestionably. As a matter of fact, I did when I was in I learned it while I was in school, and as soon as I learned this, before every test that was a big one for me, where I felt like I wasn't quite ready or I really need to, as soon as I meditated, it made such a big difference. Now, I'm not the academically smartest person, so I needed a lot of help. But it did help a tremendous amount. Third thing that will happen, you'll be doing 1, 1, 1, and you just stay on it for most of the time. So what? Big deal. You don't get a golden halo because you did it great. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that time, that's what your mind did, was it stayed on the Word. Okay? So, you don't have no other intention than, and this is why it's so easy, because anyone can do this. Oh yeah, 1, 1. You don't do it with your breath. You don't do it with it. It's just that. Now, the most important part of meditation, by far, is how you end it. If you're going 1, 1, oh crap, I gotta get out of here. I gotta do something. It will feel like, if you end it quickly, it will feel exactly like when you're in the middle of a deep dream or a deep sleep and the phone rings and you're suddenly out of there. Does that feel great? Ain't nothing that feels worse than, God, I was having the greatest dream and now you're not. Well, it's the same way when you meditate. You take 2 to 3 minutes, 4, maybe even 5 minutes to take your time coming out of it. It's really, that's the most important thing. If you hurry to finish it, the benefit that you've had of being in that quietness will disappear. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I just have to say, one thing that's really helped me too, is you're going to hear things externally, not just in your mind, but you're going to hear popping and moving and rustling. And it's really cool if you're ever doing this at home too. You'll hear kids crying or whatever, and just observe it. Just observe, oh, I'm hearing sound. 1, 1.
Yeah.
You don't have to put your attention to it or judge it or, oh, I wish that wasn't making any noise. You just go, oh, there's some noise, and then come back to it.
You treat, and this is why, this is the very reason why I've meditated everywhere you can imagine. From tops of mountains to on trains and planes to in cars, and it's always the same. Because you treat external sounds the same as you treat internal sounds. Oh yeah. Somebody will sneeze, somebody will cough. Oh yeah, one. And you use those, instead of them being annoying, you use those as cues. Oh yeah, one. One. Now obviously if somebody's crying, you know, or dog's barking, you'd go somewhere else. But you can still do it in that environment just as easily. Ideally is dark and quiet, but you can do it just as easily. Okay, does that make sense for everyone? Are we all? You don't take this very seriously. It's hugely important, hugely valuable, and it's not serious. It's about the same as, how many had breakfast today?
I had breakfast.
Did you like, oh, I'm so great because I had breakfast. Let me tell you about my breakfast. I had this shake, and I had a banana, and I had some toast, and it was the greatest thing. I'm just so great. You don't do that. Well, it's the same with meditation. Oh, I meditated today. I'm so impressive because I did meditation. You don't do that. You do it, and then you get on with your day. So now, here's what we're going to do. I'd like you all, most importantly, sit up in your chairs so your back's straight up and down. The main reason for that is because if you fall asleep, I don't want you to tip over. So have your back straight up and down, and if you do happen to fall asleep, you'll kind of come forward this way. But I want you to select. You've got that paper that has a few words on it. Select one of those or something else that feels nice for you. It doesn't make any difference at all. And then after about 30 seconds we'll close our eyes, turn the lights out. After about 30 seconds, then just start repeating that word and just let it kind of like one. And as your mind wanders, oh yeah, one. Do not try hard. You just allow that word to happen, okay? And then at some point I will say take about 2 minutes to slowly return. And then at that point you'll, oh, no more one, okay. And then you just kind of bring yourself slowly back, and then we'll finish with a couple things.
When you're doing this on your own, how do you know when to bring yourself back?
Yeah, it's okay, there's not any problem with quickly checking out the clock, just kind of, okay. There's no harm in that. I used to have a little alarmy thing. I think with the phones now, with the smartphones, you can, if you want to have some Tibetan bells or something going in 15 minutes and then have them, that would wake you. Whatever you want to use. After a while, you just kind of figure, you have a feel for,
When you're done.
yeah, if you think, okay, I'm not feeling so well today, I'll probably do it for 20 minutes, or I only have 10 minutes. You have a pretty good feel for that as you do it. The other thing is, if you've got an itch, take care of it. Don't think, oh, I can't, I'm going to disappear this with my brain and my thought power. You just, no big deal. Okay? Don't make a big deal out of any of this, and just allow it to happen.
With the itch thing, what I found is if I want to itch something, I become conscious of me doing that. Like I think about like, okay, I'm going to itch that, and then I itch it. I know it just kind of keeps me in that mode.
But then after you take care of it, it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's great.
There you go. Okay, so we're going to turn the lights out, and
Can we sit against the wall?
you want to sit
Yeah.
on the floor? Feel free. Any other questions? So enjoy this. Remember your single intent. So just kind of finish that up. Watch your eyes. So let me ask you this, first of all. And I have 3 quick things I want to mention before we leave. Did anyone have troubles with that? Was it challenging? It's easy, huh?
That was the most amazing thing ever.
Shut up.
No, I mean for real.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean for real.
What do you mean by that?
What did you find yourself thinking about?
Like, how happy I was.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I was almost smiling the whole time.
Really?
And I didn't even notice it until after I was just waiting and told him I was to go back. And I felt really heavy.
Nice. Now, let me say 2 or 3 quick things. Just kind of focus here for just a second. I know we're running out of time, but I do want to make these comments. First of all, it is not what happens during meditation that defines the quality of your meditation. It is how you feel afterward. Sure, it's nice. And every time I do that, I have that same, woo, this is nice. But how you feel afterward is the true test of the meditation. Do you feel more centered, more balanced, more relaxed, more clean than you felt before? Do your colds go away? Do your sicknesses, do your headaches disappear? Okay. Second thing is, I have no idea why this works. I can conjecture on maybe some ideas. I think it a lot has to do with your mindfulness idea that when you're doing this, you're being extremely mindful. It's just right here and now, absolutely. But I also don't know exactly why when I do push-ups or when I do curls, I don't know what's going on in there to make my muscles so huge. But I stopped caring a long time ago how that works or why that works. I just like the benefits. Same with meditation. You don't have to know why it works to enjoy the benefits. Third thing, and this is, I think, the coolest of all, and I commend this to your practice for this reason. When you meditate, it's kind of like if you took an ink, a bottle of ink, and you put a napkin in it, a little bit, and you pulled it back out, a little bit would come onto the napkin, right? You put the napkin in again, and it would slide up a little more of the napkin. You put the napkin in again, and a little more would come up. It's the same way with meditation. The more you do meditation, the more the feeling that you have during meditation bleeds over into the rest of your days. There's rarely a day where I get upset. I don't remember the last time I got really angry, except at some bad umpires or refs. I never get mad at things. I just, and I don't consciously try to not be, but the point I'm trying to make here is, if you will let this be one of those things, like exercise is really important, and like eating well, if you add this component into your life, you will see amazing things happen to your overall level of well-being. And you'll probably live to be 15 or 20 years longer, but they will be well years. There's plenty of research to support that. Now, people always ask me, when's the best time to meditate? And there's 2 answers. One is anytime, and the second is my favorite time to do it, and this is just my own, is first thing in the morning. I find that if I have any problems with not getting enough sleep, this covers it. But I also have found that when I do it in the afternoons, it makes all the difference in the rest of my day. So I'd like you to do it 2 times but not right before sleep. Okay? And then report on all 3 times, same as the others. See you guys. Have a great day.